Dear students, in this video we are going to see list of all important questions in class 10 CBSE Maths, chapter wise. Green highlighted questions are important and yellow highlighted questions are very much important to score very high marks in the board exams. As the board exams is nearing, I have prepared this video to help you all to get high marks in maths. In the real numbers, the screen highlighted example 3 is important, and in the exercise 1.1 fourth question and fifth question is important, and the sixth question is very much important. You shouldn't skip this question. You need to practice in order to score high marks. And in exercise 1.2 you can see first and second question is very much important. And in the exercise 1 in the chapter 1 there are only few important questions were there. Let's check the important questions for polynomials. Example 2 is very much important, and 4 is very high important question it is. I have checked multiple question papers while analyzing these questions repeated multiple times. So I have marked it as yellow, as you need to practice it very well to score high marks. You shouldn't skip these questions which I marked in yellow. And in exercise 2.2, in the first question, third subdivision is important. Fourth and fifth subdivision is very much important. And in the second question, second subdivision is important. Fifth subdivision is very much important. You need to concentrate both green and yellow marked. Very much precedence should be given for the yellow ones. You shouldn't skip any questions which I given, but more precedence should be given for yellow and then green. In that way I'm saying. And in the third chapter, example 3 is very important, and in 3.1 the first subdivision is important compared to second. So prepare well this first subdivision, and then fifth and seventh are important. Sixth question is very important for the board exam. And example 5 is also very much important. This question has repeated multiple times, so I have marked it as very high importance, should be given to this question. And in exercise 3.2, in the first question, second subdivision is important and the sixth subdivision is important. Second question is important. In the third question, almost all questions are important, but more important should be given for the fourth and fifth, and then the second question, second subdivision. Sixth subdivision is also very important, and eighth example is important. 10th example is very much important. High preference should be given to questions which is marked in yellow. In exercise 3.3, the second question, third subdivision is very much important. Fifth subdivision is important. And that's all in the third chapter. When it comes to fourth chapter, in example 1 is fully important. Comparing to the first subdivision, second subdivision is given higher precedence, higher importance. In exercise 4.1, in the second question, first subdivision and fourth subdivision are important. Among these two subdivisions, fourth subdivision is very much important. Do not skip the questions which I given here. Practice all the questions which I marked, whether it is in green or yellow. More precedence should be given for the fourth yellow marked questions. In exercise 4.2, fifth and sixth question were important. Sixth question has repeated multiple times in multiple exams, so more precedence should be given for the sixth question. Eighth example is important. Ninth example is also important. In exercise 4.3, In the first question, second subdivision is important. In the second question, second subdivision is important. Fourth question is important. And now coming to fifth chapter. Fourth example is important. Sixth example, seventh example. Eighth example is very much important. And example 10 is also very much important. Considering board exams, you will be getting more questions from the examples than the exercise. So you need to concentrate more on the examples, especially the examples which I have given. In 5.2, in the 5.1, we won't be having any important questions. So in 5.2, sixth question is important, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th. 17th question is very much important. This question is little tricky because they are asking us, they given this series 3, 8, 13 like that. They are asking to find the 20th series from the last term. So you need to reverse this and write 253 as the first term, like that it will go. That's why this question is very much important. This kind of tricky questions they will be asking in the exam. 14th example, first and second subdivision both are important. 16th example, all the subdivisions were important. In the exercise 5.3, in the third question, 6th, 7th and 10th subdivision is very much important. In the 10th question, second subdivision is important. It's better to study both of them, but more importance was given to this. 11th question is important. 12th, 13th and questions are very much important. Should be given higher priority to these questions. 14th question is important. 18th question is very much important. Higher importance should be given to this question. And in this chapter, even though it is optional, you need to study first two questions and more importance should be given to the second question. And now coming to triangles. In the triangles chapter, if you consider theorem based questions, both triangles and circles are important. Either from one you will be getting a theorem based question, but in the triangles chapter, studying only the statement is enough, no need for the proof. Study this statement, theorem 6.1 statement, you should be thorough with that statement, and then theorem 6.2 statement. And in exercise 6.2, third, fourth question and sixth question is important. Ninth and 10th question are very much important. Example 4 is important question. Example 7 is also important. 10, all the subdivisions were important. Example 8, all the subdivisions were important. And then in the exercise, 5th question is important, 8th question, 10th question is important, and 11th question, 13th, and 14th question is very much important. Instead of just saying which questions were important, I'm showing the textbook because even though some children having the rationalized syllabus books and some children's not having yet that rationalized book, they are following the old book. That's why I'm showing in the textbook so that everyone will get benefited instead of just saying the numbers in the chapters. I'm showing the textbook for better understanding of the students. I don't want any one of the students should face any difficulty. That's why. Example 1 is important from this chapter, 7th chapter. 4th, 5th example is important. In the exercise 1.1, third question is important. 7th and 8th question. 10th question is very much important. More importance should be given to this question. 7th question is important. 9th question is also important. 10th question. In the examples I am saying previously. In exercise 7.2, 6th question is very much important. You need to study this question to get high marks in the board exams. 7th, 10th question is also important. Coming to 8th chapter, third example is important along with both the subdivisions. 5th example is important. Coming to exercise 8.1, second question is important. 7th, 8th question is also important. 10th question should be given higher precedence. It is very much important to score high marks in the board exam. And coming to exercise 8.2, second question, all the subdivisions were important because they will be asking MCQ kind of questions from here. Practice them. Third and fourth question is very much important. Higher precedence should be given for these questions. Example 11 and 12 is important. In the exam exercise 8.3, from the third, to be honest, all the questions were important in the third, but third and fourth subdivision is very much important. They just ask you in MCQs. This kind of questions will be mostly asked in the MCQs. In the fourth question, third and fifth subdivision is very much important. Higher precedence should be given to this. 9th, 10th is also very much important. That's all in this chapter. Coming to next chapter, 9th chapter. Example 4 is important. Example 6, 7, and coming to exercise 9.1, 6th question is important, 10th question is important, 12th question is important, 14th, 15th question is very much important. That's all in this chapter. Coming to circles chapter. In this chapter also you can expect a theorem based question, but writing proof is also important. Statement plus proof is needed for the exam. Comparing to triangles chapter, in the triangles chapter only statement is enough, but in the circles both statement and proof is important. You can study the theorem which I marked 10.1. In the exercise 10.1 there is no important questions as much. 10.2 theorem is also very much important. You need to concentrate more on these two theorems. Example 2 is important, 3 is very much important. And in the exercise 8.4 question is very important. 6th and 8th question is also important. 9th question is important. 11th and 12th is very important questions. And coming to 11th chapter, example 2 is important. In 11.1, 2, 3 is important. 7th question is very much important. And in the 8th question, first division, subdivision is important. 11th, 13th questions were important. And coming to 12th chapter, example 2 is important, 4 is important. In exercise 12.1, 5th question, 6th question is important. 7th is very important question. And then example 7 is important. In exercise 12.2, first question is important. Third question is very much important. It is very important question. 6th question is also very important question. 6th question is important. That's all in that chapter. Coming to statistics. Third question is important in the statistics. If they didn't give any method, you can choose either one of the method to find the mean. Fifth question is important. In exercise 13.2, third question is important. And example 7 is very much important. In this chapter, you focus more on the examples. Example 8 is important. When they given some variables in the frequencies, this kind of questions are very important for the board exams. You can expect this kind of questions in the board exams. In 13.3, second question is very much important. Here also you can see x and y they given in the frequency. For median, they definitely give this total frequency, then only we can find it. There is a trick. My students will ask me whether they given frequency or cumulative frequency, how to identify. There is a simple trick. If you see 4, 5, 13, 20, 14, 8, 4, it is keep increasing and at some point it's keep decreasing. If in that case it is frequency was given. For cumulative frequency, we can see it will be keep increasing only. It won't be decreasing at all. Then they given the cumulative frequency. This step you keep in mind so you don't do any mistakes. Third question is important. Fourth question is important. Coming to probability. In the probability, mostly you will be getting cards based question, dice based question. Those questions are important. Toss also. Toss based questions is also important. Coin based. Example 6th is very much important. 13 were important. In the exercise, 13th question is important, 14th question is important, 16th question, 17th question is very important. 19th question is very much important. You can see this die was showing A twice. You should consider while showing the probability. 23rd and 24th questions were important. Okay. Students, please concentrate on these questions first. Chapter wise I have given. You can get high marks by only concentrating on these questions. Understand the topic and then do. Write all the formulas in one book and practice them well. You need to by heart the formulas properly, and while writing the exam, mention the formula. Some teachers will reduce marks if we doesn't mention the formula for any questions which are formula based. So write the formulas, present the question paper, answer paper well. Try to attend all the questions. Don't skip any questions. Not only in maths, I'm saying all the subjects. You shouldn't leave any questions. You should attend all the questions. Give your 100% in these exams and practice well. All the best.